Mike is famously uninterested in women. Tom and I had been in love for 3 years, and everyone thought we would get married. But Mike, through thick and thin, managed to steal Tom's girl. 6 months later, the wedding took place as planned. The groom was Mike. He kissed my ring and chuckled, "Tom didn't know how to be a good boy, so I'll take over." Everyone sighed, saying he stole another man's love, but no one knew it was a long premeditated plan. The first time I saw Mike was at Tom's celebration party. Amidst the glitz and glamour, the person in charge made the introductions. The introducer said respectfully, "Tom, this is Mike." I looked up from behind Tom. In the dim, flickering light, the man had a high nose, thin lips, and deep-set eyes. I couldn't help but be somewhat stunned. Tom's looks were already considered top tier in our circle. But this face was even better. Tom smiled and extended his hand, polite and conventional. "Mike, long time no see." Mike, the eldest son of the Whites, powerful and influential, the head of the North conglomerate. The man returned the gesture and glanced at me silently. Tom put his arm around my waist. "Mandy, my fiancé." Out of politeness, I proactively extended my hand. "Hello, Mike." Mike raised an eyebrow. The moment our hands clasped, the man's pinky finger lightly hooked my palm. It was very light, and also very itchy, almost like an illusion. I suddenly looked up at him. The man's expression was unreadable. Our hands touched and parted. I thought to myself, it must have been an illusion. Mike was surrounded and escorted away. Tom pressed the back of his hand against my cheek. As expected, a crown prince whose dad died is different. His tone carried a hint of a smile. "No way, babe, your boyfriend is still here, and your heart has already flown away?" I turned my face to nudge his palm, pouting, "What are you talking about?" Tom was a natural socializer, busy with the demands of high society, with no time to spare for me. I was bored out of my mind when, unexpectedly, champagne spilled on my dress. After contacting my assistant, I was dealing with it at the wash basin when I inadvertently looked up and met Mike's eyes in the mirror. I was stunned for a moment, and said, "Mike." Mike acknowledged with a hum, walked closer to wash his hands. A cold, masculine scent and an aggressive aura hit me. As I looked down, a well-defined hand suddenly appeared before my eyes. In his hand was a silk handkerchief with subtle embroidery. Further up, a Patek Philippe watch was fastened around his wrist. "Please," Mike's voice was deep and a little hoarse. "Don't mind." I blinked slowly, turned to face him, took it, and thanked him softly. Mike paused for a moment, then quickly said, "Excuse me," and took off his suit jacket. "I hope this can help cover you up a bit." A faint cold scent lingered in the air. I stood there for a long time, a man's suit jacket draped over my bare shoulders, unable to snap back to reality. When we returned to the apartment after the dinner party, Tom was in a bad mood. Because of the man's jacket on my shoulders. Mike is inherently quite cold. He doesn't seem like the type to do something like this. Tom lit a cigarette. "Mandy, I always feel like he's different towards you." I knocked the cigarette out of his hand. "He's a notorious workaholic, a monk." "Can you stop with the wild imagination?" "How is it wild imagination?" Tom wasn't angry either, and held me in his arms, face to face. "This face of yours, which man wouldn't be moved?" He lowered his head and nuzzled my nose, saying, "Even if he were a monk." I rolled my eyes without hesitation. Tom exclaimed in feigned surprise, "Even rolling your eyes, you're so captivating." I couldn't help but be amused and was pushed down onto the sofa by Tom, kisses following. Tom's style in this regard was like his personality, gentle, affectionate, lingering, and as persistent as water. I hooked my arms around his neck. "Get the 001. Tom was somewhat dissatisfied, kissing the side of my neck. "Can we not use it, please?" I've always been firm on this. Tom couldn't win, so he vented this dissatisfaction on me. Many times, I whimpered silently in a sweaty daze, but couldn't find release. As the moon shone through the window, I looked at the bright, cold, solitary light, and a thought flashed through my mind in my languor. "Tom, he's missing that little bit of excitement. Tom volunteered to help me return Mike's handkerchief and suit. I was a little surprised. Among the new generation, he and Mike were rivals. The two had never gotten along. Aside from necessary social interactions, everyone in the circle knew, where there's Mike, there's no Tom. You don't understand, Tom said. This is a man's unique sense of crisis. I remained non-committal about this. But I didn't expect that the first one to feel a sense of crisis would be me. Tom's original secretary was promoted and transferred to a branch office, and a new secretary was hired. The hiring didn't follow the proper procedures. The Millers directly recommended their recently graduated youngest daughter to Tom's company, under the guise of learning. Everyone knew that the Millers' daughter had been infatuated with Tom for years. Not only did Tom not actively draw a clear line, but he also kept Melody by his side. Tom and I had a huge fight. That's Tom's problem, too much of a gentleman, gentle and affectionate, with unclear boundaries. At the end of the argument, Tom said irritably, "Can you stop being unreasonable?" I looked at him expressionless for a few seconds, then slammed the door and left. Tom's company was located in the tech park of the new economic zone, a vast and complex area. I had come in his car, and after going downstairs, I felt lost for a moment. Suddenly, I heard a short honk from behind. A low-key Rolls-Royce pulled up in front of me. The window slowly rolled down, revealing Mike's handsome face, so striking it was almost aggressive. The familiar yet unfamiliar masculine scent hit me again. "Mandy," Mike asked gently, "is there anything I can help you with?" A cool atmosphere permeated the car, with low classical music playing. 3 minutes after getting in, the rationality burned away by anger slowly, belatedly returned. Mike was dressed in a white shirt and black pants, his legs crossed, exuding the exceptionally elegant, aristocratic demeanor. But he was different from Tom, his temperament was more composed, and also more imposing. In a bad mood? Mike loosened his tie and turned his head to look at me. I met his gaze, only to see the man blink. My breath hitched for a moment. In that instant, the sternness about him vanished, replaced by a seductive charm. What on earth am I thinking? I almost broke down. This is Mike, the renowned monk of our social circle. I dazedly hummed in agreement. Then how about joining me for a few drinks? Mike lowered his gaze, pulled out his tie with slow movements, his well-defined fingertips tinged with a faint red. My gaze struggled to tear away from his fair hand. I didn't even hear clearly what he said and hummed in agreement again. Mike lowered his head and chuckled softly. It was only then I noticed his eyebrows were extremely dark, his thick lashes trembled lightly, almost dazzlingly mesmerizing. I turned my head to look out the window, once again reminding myself, this is Mike. The car slowly came to a stop. Mike got out but didn't move. He rested one hand on the car's edge, his shirt collar wide open, revealing a large expanse of collarbone. He bent slightly and extended his hand to me. As if possessed, I placed my hand on his. The familiar masculine scent was less sharp, and Mike even considerately placed a hand on my waist. Extremely measured, a touch and then gone, yet it made me feel a little restless. Just like the first time we met, when he shook my hand. The quiet bar had a great hermit hides in the city kind of vibe. Mike opened the door for me, and melodious music spilled out. I followed him up to the second floor. The second floor was more elegant, and I recognized everyone in the booths. In the same circle, you bump into each other all the time. They were very surprised to see me, stood up to greet me, and then said, "Well done, Mike, you finally brought her." Mike walked to the bar, smiled without saying anything in response, and looked at me, asking, "What would you like to drink?" I raised an eyebrow. "You're making it for me?" "My skills are pretty good," Mike said. "You can give it a try." I don't know why, but I always feel like there's something off about that statement. I casually ordered a specialty cocktail. Tom, who was pinned at the top of my contacts, hadn't sent any messages. Locking the screen hid my frustration. I focused on watching the man in front of me mix drinks. Mike was famous for his love of extreme sports. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, tall with long legs, a truly great physique. The black apron lightly outlined his lean waist. I don't know what material his white shirt was made of, it was elegant and subtly revealing. I lowered my head to hide my inner guilt and silently chanted a Buddhist mantra. Then I thought, my thinking hasn't reached that level yet. Looking up, Mike pushed the specialty drink in front of me, the veins on the back of his hand prominent. Under the dim lights, he smiled, his eyes curving slightly. I felt a tickle in my heart, like a feather brushing past, like the hook his finger traced in my palm when we first met. Damn it. I realized with such clarity. Mike, he's fishing for me. The specialty cocktail was indeed quite good. I lowered my eyes to hide the storm raging within me. We're both adults, Mike was practically flaunting himself in my face. If I hadn't noticed by now, I'd be the clueless one. My phone vibrated just then, it was a message from Tom. Are you with Mike right now? I suddenly looked up at Mike. The man tilted his head and smirked. I replied yes and didn't respond further. How long have Mandy and Tom known each other? 2 years. 2 years and you've decided to get engaged. Mike's voice betrayed no emotion. Mandy is so young and beautiful, aren't you going to shop around a bit more? I didn't speak. I just came back from abroad last year. Mike poured himself a drink. I hear you two are very close. I tapped the side of my glass, since everyone says so, then it must be true. Really? Mike took a sip of strong liquor. The melodious violin music suddenly changed, gradually transitioning into an elegant piano piece. His lips glistened slightly with moisture. Just like in the car earlier, he winked at me. Those eyes were deep and bright, his thick lashes fluttered, and his voice was low and a little seductive. If I chat with Mandy like this, your boyfriend won't get angry, will he? Just as the words fell, the wind chimes by the door tinkled crisply. The people in the booths exclaimed, Tom? I turned to meet Tom's eyes, and heard someone ask, what brings you here? Tom has a naturally smiling face, always graceful and suave. He walked to the bar, leaned over and put his arm around my shoulder, smiling as he said, isn't this to apologize to my baby? Looking up, as if he had just noticed Mike, he said with some surprise, Mike, what are you doing here? You've always been so disciplined, not fond of socializing. Tom affectionately tucked my hair behind my ear. I thought you wouldn't attend our kind of young people's events. I lowered my head and took a sip of wine. I ran into Mandy at the tech park. Mike wiped his hands with a napkin. As he lowered and then raised his eyes, that stern and somber aura returned. He smiled. Mandy was too upset at the time. I really couldn't bear it, so I brought her here to change her mood. A wolf whistle came from the back booth. Tom's expression remained unchanged, but the hand on my shoulder tightened considerably. I was just chatting with Mandy. Mike met Tom's gaze. Engagement is a major life event, one should consider it carefully. I gripped the glass tightly, hearing Mike say, word by word, after all, for a lifelong partner, character is very important. Our private matters are none of your concern, Tom said. On our wedding day, we will definitely invite you. Mike sighed, looking very troubled. I'm sorry, Mandy, I seem to have caused Tom to misunderstand. The wine I had just drunk almost choked me. How could that be? Mike was also being kind. Tom emphasized the words being kind. We'll take our leave then. Indeed, Tom wouldn't be such a petty person. Mike extended his hand, gallantly saying, please excuse me for not seeing you out. On the way back, Tom didn't say a word. After washing up, I was drying my hair when he suddenly hugged me from behind. I'm sorry. Tom nuzzled my neck. I have a collaboration with the Millers, I couldn't refuse. I didn't speak. Tom turned me around to face him, took the towel and started drying my hair, saying gently, don't be angry anymore, okay, baby? He kissed the tip of my nose. That kid Mike has bad intentions towards you, you should stay away from him. Me, if I hadn't argued with you today, I wouldn't have met him either. So it's all my fault. Tom covered my eyes with a handkerchief and picked me up by the waist. Now let me make it up to you. Perhaps out of guilt, Tom was exceptionally gentle today, and also more persistent than usual. As our breaths mingled, he bit my ear and whispered hoarsely, "Don't talk to Mike anymore." The moment that name was mentioned, I inadvertently let out a soft moan. Tom didn't let up, slowly and softly asking, "Can you?" The shadows of the lychee and white rose branches by the bed swayed and gradually settled. I lay with my eyes closed in Tom's arms, when suddenly I heard a vibration. Tom got up to check, paused for a few seconds, then kissed my forehead. "Baby, something came up at the company, I have to go back." I opened my eyes and looked at him intently for a few seconds. Just as Tom was about to lose his composure, I nodded. Tom's mood wasn't right, there was something wrong with that text message. But I didn't want to pursue it. I sat up against the headboard and listlessly lit a cigarette. For some reason, looking at the swirling white smoke, I suddenly felt a wave of indifference. The third time I saw Mike was at a charity gala. Tom and I attended together, and I deliberately wore the sapphire necklace he had given me. 10 minutes later, I saw the same handcrafted necklace on Melody's neck. Melody was very surprised and covered her mouth. "What a coincidence, it's the same style as Mandy's." I smiled, but looked at Tom. "Yes, what a coincidence, don't you think? Is exclusive custom craftsmanship that popular?" Tom's face was extremely grim. I removed my arm from his and smiled at Melody. "Excuse me." As I turned, Tom grabbed my hand. "Mandy, I can explain." I didn't have time to answer, because I saw Mike in the distance. Surrounded and flattered by everyone, tall and aloof. The moment our eyes met, he raised an eyebrow and toasted me with his glass. I broke free from Tom's grasp and walked towards the terrace without looking back. On such occasions, neither Tom nor Mike could easily get away due to their status. I calmed down on the terrace for a while, analyzing the pros and cons of breaking off the engagement at this moment. A text message came from an unknown number, with only 5 words, "Come to the West Garden." The evening breeze was gentle, and the fragrance of flowers floated in the air. I stood with my arms crossed, looking down at Tom and Melody arguing. Melody's tears streamed down her face as she stood on tiptoe and wrapped her arms around Tom's neck. The two figures embraced under the moonlight. The moment they kissed, I suddenly felt a pair of hands cover my mouth from behind. I subconsciously elbowed back, but my force was easily deflected. Mike whispered in my ear, his voice low and hoarse, "It's me." In the darkness, the faint scent of flowers and a cold, masculine fragrance simultaneously invaded my senses. The palm covering my mouth was dry and scorching hot, the sound of his uneven breathing was clearly audible. Mike was very tall, with a broad chest, almost completely enveloping me in his embrace. "Don't make a sound." Mike chuckled softly, whispering into my ear, "You don't want to be discovered either, right?" I tilted my head slightly. Mike released his hand, his nose just brushing against my cheek. "Like this," he whispered, "I'll misunderstand that you want to kiss me." I was about to speak, but then I saw his Adam's apple move, and I fell silent. Tom's kissing skills are terrible. Mike rested his chin on my bare shoulder, watching the two entangled in a passionate kiss under the moonlight with me. "Is he like this when he kisses you too?" I chuckled, "Not this intense." Mike nibbled my earlobe, his voice low and seductive. "Want to try intense?" Some questions don't need answers. The moment the words fell, my chin was forcefully gripped, and the man leaned in and kissed me. Mike's kiss was fierce, clashing, and dominant, just like him, pressing forward step by step. The violent lust and desire stole my breath, and I swallowed, flustered. My teeth were forced apart, and the taste of blood spread on my tongue. I gripped his neck, and Mike paused. In the dark night, our eyes met, and we couldn't control ourselves from nuzzling each other. Mike caressed the back of my sweaty neck. Suddenly, I felt a void around my neck. The necklace had fallen into Mike's hand. "This necklace doesn't suit you." His high-bridged nose roamed my neck, and a room key card was placed in my palm. Mike lowered his eyes and meticulously wiped away my smudged lipstick with a handkerchief. "This gift, you'll like it." He turned and left. I looked back. There was no one under the moon. That black card twirled between my fingers. The banquet had already ended. Tom had sent a message half an hour ago. "Baby, something urgent came up at work. Can I make it up to you tomorrow by begging for forgiveness on my knees?" The rest was a long apology, which I didn't read. The marriage alliance with Tom originated from a piece of land the Smiths owned in North. At that time, Tom and I had known each other for a year. We were adults, compatible in temperament and appearance. One thing led to another, and the two families chose marriage over a share swap. To break off the engagement, I had to come up with something tangible to fill the financial gap. After finishing another cigarette, I took the room key and went up to the presidential suite on the top floor. The thick carpet in the artistic European-style corridor absorbed the sound of my high heels. I replayed the 2 years of my relationship with Tom in my mind. It wasn't bad, happy days made up the majority. The room key opened the door. I took out my phone and started recording. Following the trail of scattered clothes, I walked barefoot and silently towards the master bedroom. The master bedroom door hadn't been closed yet. I pushed it open. Tom, wearing a bathrobe, was standing by the window. The moment he turned and saw me, the color drained from his face. I felt some regret. Logically, Tom shouldn't have been this quick. I hadn't managed to capture any actual evidence. The bathroom door opened, and Melody, wrapped in a towel with her hair down, froze on the spot. Then, a sharp scream pierced the bedroom. I stopped the camera recording. "By tomorrow, get your things out of the apartment." Tom strode over to me and grabbed my hand. "Mandy, I didn't do anything with her." I slapped him across the face, and the room fell silent. I smiled. What's the difference? The first thing I did after proposing the breakup was to schedule a full-body checkup. The results were fine. As I came out of the hospital, that Rolls-Royce discreetly pulled up beside me. I was too tired, so I just got in the car. The familiar cool atmosphere greatly soothed my fatigue and headache. I closed my eyes and heard Mike ask, "Do you like the gift I gave you?" "Quite a generous gift," I said. "You've been preparing it for a long time, haven't you?" Mike avoided the question and handed me an exquisite jewelry box. Opening it revealed a luxurious and brilliant blue diamond necklace. Both its rarity and craftsmanship far surpassed the one Tom had given me. I asked, "What is this for?" Mike blinked and said with a smile, "Isn't it obvious? I'm showing off my feathers like a peacock. You can also understand it as," Mike paused, "I'm courting, pursuing you." I looked at him. "I've already broken up with Tom." "I know." Mike met my gaze without flinching. "I was the one who ruined it. So there's no need to act anymore, right, Mike?" I closed the jewelry box. "You can't stand Tom, and the marriage alliance between our two families will also be dissolved. With your status and wealth, what can't you have? Your goal has been achieved, there's no need to waste time on me." The air was silent for a moment, then Mike chuckled softly. For some reason, a chill ran down my spine. The next second, the man lunged forward, pressing me against the car window, his hot breath igniting the cold fragrance. "Mandy." Mike pinned my hands, his words, for some reason, tinged with gritted teeth. I fought and schemed, even stooped to seducing and being the other woman. My eyes widened abruptly. So I've been batting my eyelashes at a blind man all this damn time? A large hand covered my eyes, and a kiss landed. My mind went completely blank. Until Mike once again pried open my teeth. The familiar, dominant plunder swept over my breath again. The moment my tongue was bitten, a nameless anger surged. I turned the tables, hooking Mike's neck and pressing back. The man paused for a second, then the suppressed restlessness and desire erupted. At this moment, it was less like we were kissing and more like we were venting instinctively. As my ears buzzed, I pounded Mike's shoulder, only to be met with a more intense counterattack. I gripped his neck, forcibly separating our entangled breaths. Mike's thick lashes were wet with sweat. He looked down, his eyes fixed motionless on my glistening lips, as if about to kiss me but not quite. "Admit it, Mandy," Mike whispered. "You're naturally drawn to exciting things. Tom can't satisfy you." His high-bridged nose nuzzled from my cheek to the side of my neck. "Only I can. Tom is already tainted." Mike's breathy voice seduced me. "You wouldn't want an unclean man." I couldn't help but tilt my head back and gasp for air, "As if you're so clean." "You try." Mike also smiled. "Give me a chance. I'll fill the financial gap left after the engagement is broken." "Mike," I grabbed his hair. "You're rushing to give me money and let me sleep with you. Are you that worthless?" "Then what can I do?" Mike said. "Your heart is like iron. Seduction doesn't work, so I have to add some capital." I looked up at the car roof, thinking, where did this vixen come from? The breakup, as I expected, wasn't smooth. Tom refused to accept it, perhaps out of unwillingness to admit defeat. He began to pursue me frantically, constantly expressing his remorse and guilt. As fate would have it, whatever he did, Mike would always interfere. Tom sent a watch in the morning. Within half an hour, Mike would definitely send one that surpassed his in both price and style. In the afternoon, Tom treated my company employees to afternoon tea. The next day, Mike called in 4 food trucks, and a 5-star hotel provided on-site service. Their tactics were endless. My colleagues, enjoying the drama, said, "Good fight, make it louder." During my lunch break, I went to the pantry to get coffee and overheard my assistant gossiping. "No wonder they want to fight monopolies. Is this a business war?" No, this isn't a business war, this is a love war." "Who do you support?" "Definitely Mike, he gives more." The two laughed loudly. I knocked on the door. "Can you not talk about the main character?" The assistant turned around, saw me, and wasn't afraid, smiling cheekily. "Mandy, keep stringing them along, don't settle down too quickly." Another one took my coffee cup. "Exactly, the whole floor is filled with flowers they sent. We've been taking them home every day after work these past few days." I smiled, thinking, Tom hasn't pulled out his trump card yet. Sure enough, over the weekend, both sets of parents proposed having dinner together. At the dinner table, both two families went all out, talking about our years of love and the land we jointly developed, playing both the emotional and interest cards. I dealt with it perfunctorily and excused myself to the restroom to catch my breath. At the wash basin, I ran into Mike again. I laughed in exasperation. "Do you live in the restroom?" "This time it really wasn't me trying to be scheming," Mike said. "This is a genuine coincidence." He walked over, took my hand, and pulled out a handkerchief. Mike was dressed casually today, a white shirt, light brown trousers, and white sneakers. These light colors greatly softened his stern temperament, making him less imposing. He just looked more like a sly fox. I thought to myself, who on earth spread the rumor that he was serious, powerful, and unreadable? Mike lowered his eyes, meticulously wiping the water droplets from my hand. As he pulled away, his thumb and forefinger gently squeezed my ring finger. I suddenly looked up at him. His eyebrows curved slightly, and he winked at me. "Stop flirting." Mike's tone was regretful. "Is it that obvious?" Footsteps echoed in the hallway. I was about to withdraw my hand, but Mike held it tightly. The footsteps grew closer. The moment Tom appeared, he intertwined his fingers with mine. Then, as if very surprised, he looked at Tom. "Tom, what a coincidence." "Mike," Tom said, word by word, "are you so morally bankrupt as to sabotage other people's relationships?" Why would Tom think that? I was just helping Mandy dry her hands. Mike put on an innocent face. "It's the same as when you took Melody into the room to change her soaked dress." Damn, I looked at Tom's completely darkened face and thought, what a venomous tongue. "Mike, do you have any shame?" Tom was furious. "Playing the third wheel here." Mike sighed. "Tom, the unloved one is the third wheel." The air was tense, with a hint of an unknown explosive charge. The next second, Tom ripped off his suit button, and a fist flew towards Mike. Mike gently pushed me aside, raised his arm to block, and with a push and pull, deflected Tom's force. Tom's eyes were red with anger. The two men fought in the small washroom, almost blow for blow. Tom had studied Muay Thai for many years and had excellent technique. Mike, who regularly engaged in extreme sports, was physically strong. It was an even match, and for a moment, it was hard to tell who had the upper hand. I leaned against the washstand, watching these two highly educated male creatures battle it out with primal instincts. Occasionally, I'd pipe up to remind them of my presence. Stop fighting, you two. Both men, consumed by pain and anger, naturally ignored my words. I admired my manicure for a while, then looked up just in time to see Mike land a punch on Tom's left cheek. A solid hit. Tom was knocked against the washstand by the force. I even heard the sound of flesh hitting flesh. Enough. I shouted to stop them. Aren't you embarrassed? Mandy, she's faking it all. Tom lowered his head and spat out the blood from his mouth. He's so scheming, how can you not see it? I handed Mike's handkerchief to him. Wipe yourself first. Tom took the opportunity to grab my hand. Mandy, I swear, I really didn't do anything with her that day. Mike's shirt was disheveled. He chuckled upon hearing this. So you two specially booked the top floor suite and wore bathrobes to fight the landlord? Tom only looked at me, his refined face a mixture of green and red. I admit I was bewitched at the time, but I regretted it in the end. I really didn't do anything with her. A tear fell onto the back of my hand. Tom pleaded, give me one last chance, okay? Damn it, Mike cursed, then grabbed his collar and slammed Tom against the mirror. Do you have any fucking shame? I grabbed his tensed arm. That's enough. Mike's eyes were bloodshot. He sheds a few tears and you soften up. He stared at me intently for a few seconds, then threw Tom aside, turned, and walked away. I've had your things in the apartment packed up for you. They'll be delivered tomorrow, cash on delivery. After the engagement is broken, I'll cover the financial gap. I looked at the disheveled Tom. After all these years of relationship, let's part amicably. Tom covered his face. Are we breaking off the engagement because of Mike? I was silent for a few seconds, yes, and no. I sent a message to both sets of parents, informing them of my early departure. The evening breeze was gentle. That familiar Rolls-Royce was parked discreetly in a parking spot. I walked over and tapped on the window, no response. Mike, I said softly, let me see you. The car window slowly rolled down. Mike's hair was disheveled, the corners of his eyes were red, and his expressive eyes held countless emotions. After glancing at me, he turned his face away. Knowing he was doing this deliberately, my heart still felt like it was brushed by a feather, with a hint of an itch. I was thoroughly impressed. The sly fox was indeed a master. My stopping you earlier wasn't because I felt sorry for Tom. My voice involuntarily softened. It's because if the fight continued, he would have called the police, and you would have been in trouble. Mike's thick lashes fluttered, but he didn't speak. Don't be angry anymore. I gently coaxed. I've already proposed to both sets of parents to break off the engagement. Mike still didn't speak. I'd scared, unable to keep up the act any longer. Enough, right? I'm coaxing you for the money to fill the financial gap. Give me a straight answer, are you going to provide it or not? Mike smiled. You're just taking advantage of the fact that I like you, aren't you? What else? I leaned on the car window. My project will take another 6 months to wrap up. I have to get the money from you first. Mike turned his face, and we were so close our breaths mingled. Actually, you were wrong just now. I stared at his lips. Tom shedding a few tears won't make me soften up. Mike suddenly looked at me. But if you cried. The unspoken half of the sentence dissolved into the kiss he leaned in for. The news of Tom and I breaking off our engagement caused quite a stir. Many mutual friends called to inquire. I uniformly answered, we're incompatible. Tom still hadn't given up, but compared to his previous aggressive advances, he now showed a bit more patient persistence. This was nothing much. There's too much gossip in social circles. What really ignited the public's interest was Mike. He began to pursue me openly. Mike was cold and unapproachable, single for nearly 30 years with no romantic scandals, a well-known monk. When I heard a female companion say this while we were out, I rolled my eyes without hesitation. Monk, my foot, I thought, he's a 1,000-year-old fox. The age-old rule of where there's chow, there's no tan was completely broken. Whenever I appeared at a social event, both of them would inevitably be there. Two men fighting over one woman, and prominent figures at that, the social circle was buzzing with gossip. At a certain rich kid's birthday party, who clearly enjoyed stirring up trouble, all three of us were invited. During a fishing and barbecue outing by the stream, the rich kid teased, "You two have always disliked each other, how come you came together this time?" Everyone perked up their ears. "Some morally bankrupt people love to poach other people's partners," Tom said, flipping the grilled meat. "I've learned my lesson from being absent." Gasps and exclamations rippled through the crowd. Being poached means your own defenses weren't strong enough. "After all, you and Melody crossed the line first," Mike said politely. "So, do you understand why it wasn't stable, Tom?" My expression remained unchanged as everyone's gazes shifted between the three of us. "A gentleman does not take what others cherish," Tom said. "Mike, sometimes one should still conduct oneself with self-respect." I indeed lacked the demeanor of a gentleman. Mike offered him a glass of wine. But Tom is magnanimous and tolerant, surely he would be willing to help others fulfill their wishes. The glass of wine hung in the air, and everyone held their breath. After a long pause, I took the glass and drank it in one gulp. That night, we stayed at the rich second-generation's estate. As I came out of the shower, Mike sent me a message: "Tom is drinking alone at the bar downstairs." I could sense a hint of gloating in those few short words and replied, "What, are you going to keep him company?" Mike didn't reply again, but 10 minutes later, there was a knock on my door. I finished applying my body lotion and serum before slowly going to open the door. The moment the man hugged me, he also closed the door and pressed me against it. He buried his face in my neck and whispered, "You smell so good. Did you know? When I first returned to the country, I attended a party." Mike nuzzled my neck, almost kissing it. "You and Tom were in the room next to mine. Early in the morning, when I passed him. He whispered in my ear with a breathy voice, 'I could smell your scent.'" I rolled my eyes. "You're sick." Mike chuckled, then single-handedly lifted me into his arms, coaxing me into a kiss. This time it was much gentler, but unfortunately, lingering wasn't his style, and he soon reverted to his true self. Outside the window, the tree shadows swayed, and the rustling leaves concealed the faint sound of water. "Try me, baby," Mike whispered seductively, holding me. "I'm cleaner than him, and better." My fingers were weak, flushed red. When I reached for something from the bedside table, he glanced at it and suddenly said, "Too small." I didn't quite react. "I'm not Tom, I'm everything." Mike guided my hand to his belt and said, word by word, "Better than him." Mike wasn't exaggerating. He had many tricks up his sleeve and knew how to play. As I smoked a post-coital cigarette, I thought, he really is a fox. Mike wrapped his arms around my waist, playing with my fingers, and asked, "So, can you give me a proper title now?" "Let's make you a concubine," I said, draping his shirt over myself as I got up. Looking at the messy state of my body, I cursed. My body lotion was wasted. "Not at all," Mike chuckled. "I actually thought you didn't put on enough." I didn't quite understand what he meant by that, until the next morning. Mike, ever the showman, chose a black silk shirt paired with white trousers, the collar unbuttoned provocatively, revealing his collarbone and a hickey. Before leaving, he even lay on top of me, nuzzling for 10 minutes. "Trust me, baby," Mike clung to me tightly. "After today, Tom will definitely not bother you again." I pushed him away, non-committal. The courtyard where we stayed overnight had running water, with corridors dividing the areas, a pavilion every 10 steps, and a scenic view every 5 steps. I was really curious about Mike's intentions, so I opened the window from the second floor. In the distance, Mike and Tom approached from left and right, both ignoring each other as they passed. Mike continued walking without stopping, but Tom froze in place. As he looked up, his eyes met mine. After a long pause, he smiled at me, but as he smiled, his eyes reddened. I realized Tom had smelled my body lotion. From Mike. That was the last time Tom and I saw each other. He completely exited my life, until the eve of my wedding 6 months later. As Mike was trying a necklace on me, my phone buzzed with a message from Tom. Mike was surprisingly magnanimous this time, looking at the screen and saying, "He wishes you a happy marriage." I laughed out loud, so it was the rival being generous, putting on a brave face here. So what? Mike bent down to kiss me. I fought and schemed, didn't I still get you? The wedding was unprecedentedly grand. Mike's old man had passed away, making him the undisputed man in charge. The marriage between two families drew an endless stream of guests. Mike, this man, was deeply scheming and would resort to any means to get me. But at extremely formal ceremonies and major life events, he, on the contrary, couldn't say anything particularly eloquent. The wedding was carried out meticulously. His serious demeanor made the originally lively audience quite solemn. Perhaps to lighten the mood, a friend teased, "Old Chow, this alpha male, has finally won the beauty." Indeed, a certain wealthy scion joked, Mike snatched her away from another back then. Mike lowered his eyes, concentrating on putting the ring on my finger. White doves were released into the sky, fireworks exploded, and amidst the fluttering petals, Mike took my hand. His eyes curved slightly as he brought my hand to his cheek and placed a kiss on it. "And how do you know?" Mike smiled, "That I wasn't planning this all along?" Epilogue. When Mike's cheapskate father died, he returned to the country. At his own father's funeral, Mike saw Mandy for the first time. Dressed in plain white, without a trace of makeup, she was as cold and aloof as a small white flower swaying in the harsh wind. The little white flower, draped in a knitted shawl, offered 3 incense sticks to his father in the main hall. Mike showed no filial piety. At such a critical moment, his gaze remained fixed on her fair and slender fingers. They were tinged with a light red from the cold. Mourners came and went in an endless stream. Mike, annoyed by the socializing, slipped out to smoke. Under the corridor, the little white flower leaned against a red pillar, also smoking, her expression cold and weary. Mike admired her for a long while, until Tom, approaching from the other end, interrupted him. He and Tom were comparable in all aspects, but their personalities were polar opposites. Perhaps it was the pride of similar individuals, a subtle balance of mutual disdain existed between them. Tom walked up to Mandy, clasped his hands together, lowered his head, and coaxed her gently, smiling in a way that seemed utterly worthless. The little white flower seemed reluctant to engage, then Tom grabbed her hand and slapped it against his own face. Mike finished his cigarette, feeling that Tom's fawning and bootlicking demeanor was rather unsightly. He thought to himself, "This grandson is quite happy being someone's dog." But that vague, unclear emotion vanished completely. He was morally depraved, but he wouldn't stoop to poaching someone else's partner. The second time he saw Little White Flower wasn't too long after. At the party welcoming him back to the country. His relatives invited Tom, specifically informing Mike. He was non-committal, "I'm not that petty." His relative sked, "You're really good at pretending, but I just want to get close to Mandy." Mandy. Mike's heart stirred, almost certain of who this person was, yet he feigned ignorance. Who? Tom's fiancé. "She's incredibly beautiful. You'll know when you see her." The relative said, "That piece of land in East, and the project linked with the government, all went through Mandy's hands." That night, Mandy and Tom arrived late. Everyone was having a pool party. Mike was on the second-floor terrace, not really wanting to show his face. Suddenly, he heard a commotion. He walked out barefoot and saw the two kissing in the pool. A truth or dare game gone wrong, a designated couple kiss. Tom was still hesitating, but Mandy hooked her arm around his neck and kissed him. Mike was very calm, staring at Mandy's hand on her boyfriend's neck. It was pressed firmly, with a light pink hue. That night, Mike had a dream, a fleeting illusion. Waking up, he was extremely agitated. Apart from his restless adolescence, he hadn't been this embarrassed in a long time. While jogging downstairs, in the long corridor, Mike and Tom ignored each other and brushed past. Tom didn't stop, but Mike inexplicably did. A very faint, elegant fragrance, barely there. Mike sniffed for a long time, then chuckled. Mike contacted his relatives and asked for an invitation to Tom's party next month. His relatives were silent for a while. "Are you on something?" Mike hummed in agreement, an unbearable itch in his heart, and said, "I just need to do something a little morally reprehensible." "What bad thing?" During a layover on a business trip, Mike was killing time in a bookstore. As he browsed the rows of books, he looked up and saw Tom through the glass window. There was a woman with him, but it wasn't Mandy. The two were acting intimately, sharing a cup of coffee. His relative was calling him on the phone. "I'm asking you? What bad thing are you doing?" Mike smiled, and before hanging up, he said, "Being the other man." The book in his hand was inadvertently opened. He looked down and happened to see. Confessing is for children. Adults, please use seduction directly. First step of seduction, abandon humanity. Basically, there are 3 tactics. Become a cat, become a tiger. Become a dog drenched in the rain. Mike closed the book, thinking, Tom didn't know how to be a proper dog, so he would.